Hello, MCU fans. Today we're going to do a ranking of all 41 MCU Phase 1 through 4 entries. Now, I did a ranking of just Phase 4, and as soon as I completed it, I got a bunch of comments saying, hey, now do everything. Oh man, it was a lot of work, but it was a lot of fun too. So keep in mind these lists are, very personal to you or to me. So my list is going to be different than yours, and I'm going to have some that you're going to be really frustrated about and some others that you're really happy about. So let me know in the comments. Tell me where you feel I got it wrong and where you feel I got it right, because that's okay. Again, your list will be different than mine. Just keep that in mind as we go through this. All right, let's dive right in, see what we can find out. So I did my ranking in 4 categories because I'm trying to do something very subjective as objectively as possible. So we'll see how I succeeded, right? So I broke it into how I felt the heroes were, the villains, the story, and then what I'm calling potpourri. That's a chance for a movie to get points or maybe lose points for special things about that movie, maybe some fight scenes or some characters in it or whatever. Also, under heroes and villains, it's how I felt the movie or TV show represented the hero or villain. So they may get a higher point in a different movie because I felt like the movie did a better job with them, if that makes sense. So it's a 100-point scale. You can get up to 25 in each category, or at least for one movie, you can actually lose points in a category. But this is not an A through F scale. So in other words, if you're below 60, that doesn't mean it's an F. I think every Marvel movie is at least a C. And better than most movies, superhero movies out there. So this is really how they relate to each other, not so much an A through F scale. Keep that in mind because the first movie is going to get a pretty low score. All right, number 41, Thor: Love and Thunder. I know a lot of people like this movie, but hang in there with me and I'll tell you why I feel it ranks lowest on my list of Marvel movies at least. So it gets a 15 for heroes out of 25. I love Thor. Love Thor. I did not like how they represented Thor in this movie. They made him a dope. He's not a dope. He's not a rocket scientist, but he's not a dope. And I just didn't like it. Mighty Thor, we just didn't get enough of her. I really enjoyed the character. And same with Valkyrie. Not enough Valkyrie. So it gets a 15 out of 25. Villains love Gore. Absolutely love Gore. The only problem is there wasn't enough of him. I mean, he's Gore the God Butcher, and he barely butchered any gods. So I feel like they almost wasted him in that regard. But still, he was fantastic. The black and white fight scene, amazing. So yeah, he gets a 20 out of 25. On the story, I really liked the cancer story. I've lost a wife and a mom to cancer, so believe me, I get the impact of cancer. I felt like they didn't do enough with it, and in fact didn't let sometimes the pain of the moment really sit. Instead, they told some more jokes and ruined it. But still, really liked the cancer storyline, and I loved the love storyline of Thor adopting Gore's daughter and her becoming the love of Love and Thunder. It was beautiful. And potpourri, here's the negative points. I just was so frustrated with the incessant comedy that really wasn't funny in the movie. Making fun of Sif's arm not going to Valhalla, Korg getting blown up and only having a face left and still singing songs. And then the way that Thor destroyed that temple in the opening scene and didn't care, he just played it off. I mean, that's not the way Thor would normally act. He wouldn't just casually destroy it and be like, whatever. So yeah, I didn't like the overall feeling of this movie, and that's why it gets a 40 out of 100 and falls low on my scale of Marvel movies. All right, next, number 41, or number 40. You're going to think I don't like Thor, because now we go to Thor: The Dark World. Well, this is interesting. It still gets a 15 for the hero, but this one is because I felt he was too serious. I actually ranked this movie higher until Ragnarok came out, and I realized, oh my, this is what they can do with the character? Wow. So he was fine in this movie, just more serious than I liked him after I saw Ragnarok. Really liked Sif, really liked the Warriors 3. They added a lot to the movie. Villains, man, Malekith, you're lucky you're getting a 5, buddy. Very forgettable villain. Story, liked the Frigga storyline, was so sad when she died, loved every moment with Loki. The problem was there wasn't enough of Frigga and Loki, and that overall the story was meh, just average. Potpourri, I don't normally like to give a movie a bunch of points for an end credit scene because I don't think an end credit scene should save an otherwise, average movie, but what an end credit scene. I mean, The Collector was awesome, and then the fact that we learned about the Infinity Stones, it made us revisit every movie up to this point to think about where were their stones hidden, where were their stones, and it made us think about the rest of the movies in the Infinity Saga and when we were going to find them and where we were going to find them. So, incredible end credit scene, but it still gets a 42. All right, number 39 on my list, Captain Marvel. Hero. Problem here was I like Captain Marvel, really liked her in Endgame, can't wait to see her in the Marvels, but most of this movie, we didn't get to meet Captain Marvel. She was brainwashed, and it wasn't the Carol that we were going to get to eventually learn to meet at the end of the movie. So the fact that for most of the movie it wasn't really her, that knocks it down. The representation of her wasn't great because of the storyline. Villains, Jan Rog didn't do it for me. His team didn't do it for me. Other than Minerva. I liked Minerva. But yeah, 10 for the villains. Story, man, loved the Skrull storyline. Talos was incredible. I mean, think about the fact that it's still impacting us as we go into Phase 5 with Secret Invasion. So really, really enjoyed that part of the story. The rest of it was okay. You know, it's above average. It's getting a 15 out of 25. But yeah, just an average story for the most part. Potpourri, I got to knock it down a bit here because I didn't like some of the retcons. I didn't like the Goose is the one that scratched his eye. They were leading us to believe this was going to be some huge deal, and it was just the cat. I also didn't like the Avengers initiative being named after Carol. Not because that bothered me that they named it after her per se, but it felt like they were trying to make this movie more important than they needed to. It was a good movie. It didn't need those retcons to try to say, oh, no, this is critically important. So, I don't know. I'm not a fan of retcons, especially when they're ill-handled, and I felt these were very ill-handled in this movie. So, it gets a 45. All right, number 38 on the list, Black Widow. The heroes would have got a 25 if the movie was called Yelena, because Yelena was amazing, one of the breakout stars of all of Phase 4. But it wasn't her movie, it was Black Widow's movie. And I didn't feel that they gave Black Widow much of a story, to be honest. It was just okay. I mean, we learned a couple things about her past, but this really wasn't the send-off I'd hoped it would be for her. Villains, oh man. I don't mind the gender swap with Taskmaster, but the whole electronic download, that's how she's able to do the maneuvers. I didn't like that. And Dreykov, what a slime ball. It loses points just because he's so evil. Could not stand that dude. Storyline. Well, the story approached some very difficult topics. I mean, child trafficking. Wow, that's a meaty topic to deal with. Very serious topic. Another reason I hate Dreykov. So that was good. But I just didn't feel as a send-off for the Black Widow, learning about Budapest, and we didn't get some of the story we really thought we were going to see. So, you know, it's above average again, 15 out of 25, but still. But on the other hand, Yelena was great, and the Black Widow, the storyline overall, the Black Widows, I should say, was really good. Potpourri, man, it loses a lot of points for that ending third act. Goodness, it was just a CGI mess. I mean, for a movie that had been very grounded, action a Bond-esque type movie, the spy thriller. What a weird ending. I didn't like it. It's funny, it was probably being patterned after Moonraker, because Moonraker had a crazy ending like that, but there's a reason people don't like Moonraker's third act. It was just too much. I really liked the opening scene, though. That was awesome with the airplane takeoff. But no, ending scene really hurts the movie. 45 for Black Widow. All right, 37, Iron Man 2. I love Iron Man. Didn't like how he was represented in this movie because I felt like he regressed from the first movie. You know, he had this great character arc in Iron Man 1, and then now suddenly he's drinking and just a total mess. I get it. He thought he was dying, but still, just not the Tony Stark that I enjoyed as much in the first movie. Rhodey was great. Not a lot of him, but he was great. Black Widow was fantastic, but I did not like the way they sexualized her from the beginning of the movie to the end. I don't know if they would ever make this movie again in the modern age, especially after Me Too. But she was fantastic. The hallway fight, unbelievable. Villains, Justin Hammer, huge points. Whiplash loses points, so we end up with a 10. I hope we do see Justin Hammer again. Story, I mean, I kind of covered the whole Demon in the Bottle storyline piece. I didn't really like that. There was a lot of world building. The story kind of went all over the place. But by the end, it was pretty good. And of course, the Whiplash piece just didn't help the story. So it was meh overall storyline. But for Potpourri, I'm going to give it some points because I really liked seeing Howard Stark. I would not have thought it would have been so interesting to learn more about Tony's dad. But in fact, this movie helped set up why we cared so much about Tony and his dad in Endgame and why their meeting was so significant. So yeah, good points for Howard Stark and his representation in the movie. Gets a 47. All right, number 36, Incredible Hulk. So I liked the Hulk in this. In fact, I probably would have ranked higher until I saw later representations of Hulk in Avengers and so on. So yeah, it's a solid 15. With the recast too, it just makes it feel like it's just less important. But really, Edward Norton did a great job with the Hulk. Villains, this is interesting. I mean, Abomination, I love him now. Blonsky's the man. In this movie, he was pretty much somebody for Hulk to pound on, let's be honest. But Ross, on the other hand, to still be around. I mean, unfortunately, William Hurt tragically passed, but they're even recasting it because this character is so important. Who would have thought 2008's Incredible Hulk would produce one of the most important characters in the MCU with Ross? Story, I'll go right down the middle with this one. I mean, I really liked Betty and Bruce, a beautiful romance. I also liked the sonic cannons against the Hulk. There were some really cool fights with the military and the Hulk. But overall, the story was just meh. Potpourri, I love the fact we're finally getting the leader. That little seed that they left at the end of the movie that we never thought would go anywhere. Captain America New World Order, he's coming back. Love it. So it gets a 52. All right, number 35, Avengers Age of Ultron. This is another one where I liked all the heroes, but I had some issues with how some of them were represented. Thor taking the bath, that whole thing was just weird. I know why it had to be done, but that was a weird plot device. Iron Man just annoyed me. Why didn't he just say to everybody, hey, give us more time. There's something really important. Let's all work together. Instead, he just went off on his own with Bruce, and I know he thought he had to because they wouldn't let him, but you never know. He didn't even ask, and he ends up destroying an entire country in the process, Sokovia. So yeah, did not like how he acted in the movie. Some of it was because of Scarlet Witch. I get that. But again, that means the hero wasn't the hero I'm used to or liked. And I really didn't like the whole Black Widow as a monster just because she can't have kids. Really? No, don't like that. Terrible writing. And maybe the Bruce and Natasha romance was a little forced. Very cute, enjoyed it, but felt a little forced. So I just had some issues with how people were represented. Villains, I've never liked Ultron. I never liked him in the comics, and his freaky deaky lips didn't help any in the movie. But no, what was so weird to me is the first thing he does is look over all the files of American history and goes, wow, these people all kill each other. I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to kill them. That's your solution? I don't know. I didn't get into Ultron. I did like him in What If, though. And if he does come back, as it's been rumored, fine. Bring him back. I'll probably like him better. Really, the writing was more the issue than Ultron himself. The story, boy, it was just all over the place. I mean, we introduced Strucker, and then he gets killed. We introduced Claw, and then he gets his arm ripped off, which I thought was so weird. We introduced Quicksilver and Scarlet Witch, and then they join up with Ultron? Really? I'm glad they realized that was a bad idea, but I don't know. The story for me was too much going on. But on rewatches, I have liked it better. I will admit, it's gotten better the more I watch it. Potpourri, boy, did it have some awesome scenes. The whole Captain America and everybody trying to lift the hammer, which of course gets paid off in Endgame, amazing. And the Hulkbuster scene, I could watch that on continuous loop for a couple hours. It's just so awesome. Anyway, gets a nice solid 53 for Age of Ultron. All right, 34, Eternals. This one would get higher ranking on the heroes. I mean, it got to 15, but it would get higher ranking if there weren't so many and we didn't get a chance to know them. I really liked Cersei, liked Thena, Druig, and Makari, really enjoyed. But there was too many of them. Or maybe the movie needed to be another half an hour. Oh, I don't know. But anyway, I liked them all. Can't wait for Eternals 2. And I'm sure they'll rank higher now that I've gotten to know them a little better. Villains, man, they're lucky it gets a 5. The Deviants were just throwaway. Not impressed. Sorry, not impressed. The story, I mean, what an amazing story to go all the way back in time and then come to present day. So much history, very amazing. But the whole Tiamat thing, I mean, why didn't it destroy the entire Earth when he came out? I don't like how it was handled. They didn't go over the ramifications like the tsunamis and earthquakes that would have happened. But on the other hand, kudos to Marvel for dealing with the topic of abortion. I mean, this was basically the question of, do you kill the baby if it's going to destroy the mother in the process or kill the mother in the process? Who saw that coming? Boy, deep topic there with Marvel. I just wish they would have handled the aftermath of Tiamat a little better, and I think they will, because we're going to be seeing him supposedly, his dead body, in Captain America New World Order. So Marvel may pay this off, and I may like the movie better in the future because of that. Potpourri, liked a lot of the new characters. Star Fox, we didn't see much of him, but that's really exciting. Really liked Dane. Can't wait for him to become the Black Knight. So it gets some points for introducing some very important characters. 55 for Eternals. All right, number 33, Thor. Once again, Thor only ends up with a 15, so you're probably thinking, boy, you said you liked Thor. It doesn't seem like you like him. No, this one, I think the fact that most of the movie he was arrogant, and a great turn, at the end of the movie, he becomes the hero that we know and love, but I just didn't like him for most of the movie, obviously. So maybe that's unfair, but again, I think the origin stories can be tricky because you spend a lot of time not having the character you're going to know and love later. But I really liked the Warriors 3. I mean, in the comics, I didn't like them or Sif, and they made me love all of them in this movie. Villain, I love Loki. I didn't really like him in this movie, though. I thought he was a brat. I mean, so what if you can't become king? You're still second most important person, or I guess third. No, because Odin stepped down. Odin would have stepped down. Thor would have been king. He'd be the second most important in the kingdom. Just get over it, dude. I'd love to be second most important in the country. Make me vice president. I wouldn't be mad. Anyway, I felt he was a little bratty, but still very good character and good villain in the movie. All right, story. Really liked Thor's redemption arc. Like I said, I just didn't like Thor originally, but by the end he was fantastic. And I really liked their romance. Oh my goodness, Thor and Jane were amazing in this movie. So a lot of points for that. But overall, the story was just, better than average, but not super. Potpourri, I really liked Odin. That's another character in the comics that I could not stand. But man, Anthony Hopkins was fantastic as Odin. Really, really liked his portrayal. All right, gets a 57. Number 32, Ant-Man and the Wasp. The heroes get a nice solid 20. I love Ant-Man. Really happy to see Wasp finally put on the costume and become a superhero. I felt like there wasn't enough of Wasp, and also there wasn't enough of Ant-Man and the Wasp together. There's a couple scenes, but really, for a movie called Ant-Man and the Wasp, we didn't see a lot of them fighting together. So that's okay. They're great heroes. Cannot wait for Quantumania. But yeah, I have to give them a 20 out of 25 this time around. Villains, Ghost, I was real excited, but it didn't do a lot for me. And Sonny Birch probably would. I enjoyed him, but they never told us who he worked for. I think that's a dangling plot thread we need answered, and maybe I would go back and enjoy it more if I knew, he was working for Norman Osborn or Kingpin or Doctor Doom. Who knows? Anyway, I just felt like he kind of was just meaningless character, unfortunately. But anyway, villains get an 8. Story. I really liked the Quantum Realm storylines. I liked rescuing Janet. That was great. And anything with Cassie is great. I mean, the whole Cassie and Scott relationship is fantastic. But overall, I felt like the story would kind of, was simple story. Good story, but a simple story. A potpourri, it definitely earned some points for Jimmy Woo. Jimmy Woo, baby. Give me more Jimmy Woo. And then Janet. It was great to see Janet. Glad she got out of the Quantum Realm, obviously. And great job by Michelle Pfeiffer. All right, 58 for Ant-Man and the Wasp. Number 31, I Am Groot. You might say, how can you put I Am Groot better than anything on the list, right? It should be down at the bottom. It's just silly little shorts. I know it was, but they were great. I mean, first of all, Groot is fantastic, and Baby Groot is doubly fantastic. So it gets a 25 for that. Villains, they were silly. They posed a little bit of a threat here and there, but obviously the villains don't get a lot of points. Likewise, the story, simple stories. They were great. They were fun. I could rewatch them over and over again, but, very simple. Potpourri, though, I do give it some points for the history, telling us how he got out of that little flower pot. That was fun. I didn't expect this to be any meaning at all, and instead we get, a continuation from Guardians 1. So, yeah, I'm going to give it a 60, and I realize that any movies or TV shows underneath this, probably people are mad right now, but Groot did what it was supposed to do. That's the key. It wasn't great. It wasn't bad. I enjoyed it from start to end. All right, Ant-Man. Hero. I would probably give it a 20, except this one was a long origin story, and so you really didn't get to see him as Ant-Man until the very end. But I love Ant-Man, and Scott Lang was terrific. And villains, Yellow Jacket was okay. Corporate greed, dude. Not terrible, but not outstanding. And I guess we're going to get him again in Quantum Mania because it sounds like he's coming back as MODOK. So that's interesting. That may get, if there's more meaning to the character going forward, that may help me bump it up in the future. We'll see. But for now, he gets a 10. Story, really liked the heist aspect. Really liked his team. Oh my gosh, Lewis, he's amazing. And again, Cassie. Anything with Cassie and Scott, their relationship was fantastic. Just overall, it was a simple story again. It didn't have a lot of meaning to it. In fact, that's why Peyton Reed has even admitted that the first 2 Ant-Men were palate cleansers, and now he's going to make Quantum Mania the main event. He's right. These were palate cleansers. They were good palate cleansers, but that's all they were ultimately. Potpourri, I loved the Falcon appearance, and I really liked how they used the Pym particles for things like the Thomas the Train. What a great scene. So yeah, a good movie. 62 out of 100 and for Ant-Man. So number 29, Miss Marvel. And Miss Marvel is a great new hero. A fantastic addition. Iman Vellani is super in the role. Can't wait to see her again in the Marvels. Only reason I don't give it a 25 is I'm still wrapping my head around her powers. I'm glad they're not stretchy because we got Mr. Fantastic coming. We don't need 2 stretchy heroes. But then they turned it almost to Green Lantern. So it's okay. I'm probably gonna, by the time of the Marvels, I'll probably give her a full 25. But I was just, and then suddenly she was a mutant at the end. There was just a lot of stuff where you're trying to wrap your head around all this and figure out what you really think about it. But no, she was great. Loved her a lot. Villains, oh man. The Clandestine, they get a 0. Deaver, though, that was really interesting to have Deaver and Damage Control kind of go off the rails. Who knows what they're going to be doing in the future, but they went after, obviously, Miss Marvel, they went after Spider-Man in No Way Home, and they went after She-Hulk. So kind of cool to see this government organization that's chasing down superheroes. So really, Deaver raises it up, and Clandestine, man, they're just not memorable. Story, I really liked her origin story. Love the bangles, like the tie with the 10 rings. The only reason I'm not giving it higher here is I was kind of frustrated with the time travel because that came out of nowhere. It seemingly broke the Endgame rules because she went in the past and changed her future. Granted, they kind of wrapped it in a nice bow by calling it a closed loop time travel, but still, after trying to finally figure out Endgame's time travel rules, don't keep changing them, Marvel, please. That said, though, I'm theorizing that Kang may be using these to do time travel of his own, so maybe they'll have a greater meaning. Maybe I'll rate this higher in the future. But it just left me kind of feeling like, okay, I'm confused again, and I don't like that. Potpourri, oh man, huge points for teaching us about the Muslim culture, the Muslim faith, the partition. I didn't even know about the partition. Fantastic job. Only reason it doesn't get a 25 is because from a timeline standpoint, this seems to occur in September, the beginning of Kamala's junior year, but the Eid festivals are not in September. So it seems like they ignored when they happen in the real world, and that was really confusing. Loses some points for that, but overall, the representation in this series was fantastic. So it gets a nice solid 63 for Miss Marvel. Number 28, She-Hulk. Boy, am I ever going to get some people mad that I have She-Hulk up this high. I understand that. I accept it. I enjoyed it, but I know a lot of people didn't. So hear me out at least. Under heroes, I don't know how I can give it any lower than a 20. I mean, Jen was fantastic. Tatiana did a great job in the role. She-Hulk is fantastic. I just loved everything about her. The fourth wall breaks, I didn't think I would like those because I didn't really like them in the comics. We'll get to episode 9. But in general, I thought it was really handled well. I laughed and laughed and laughed at the fourth wall breaks. So I'm so excited to see She-Hulk again. She gets a lot of points under hero. Villains, man. Woo. Todd, I'm not even going to talk about Todd. Terrible. But even Titania, who should have been good, it just, I didn't get into her character. I never understood what her motivations were other than she doesn't like She-Hulk. So, yeah. I hope when she comes back, they give her more story because a lot of potential with her character I felt was wasted. So it loses a lot of points on villains. Story, overall, I thought it was a good story. It was rocky at times. You had a lot of what seemed like missing story. Like, why did Titania crash into the courtroom in the first episode? We never found out. It felt like things were just out of order and confusing at times. Then you got that 9th episode. It's love it or hate it. When I watched it, I loved it. I mean, I loved it. After it was done, I went, wait, so what just happened? I mean, how much did they rewrite of the ending? We know Todd and that crazy turning into Hulk went away. What else went away? I feel like they could have explained it a little better. And I'm also a little worried about what it means for the future. Although Kevin said, I fixed it so you can't find me again. You can't break through the hole in the Disney Plus interface. Still, though, yeah, I loved it, but a little worried about what it may mean for the future. All right, potpourri, though, man, you got to love the Daredevil appearance. Fantastic. And Wong. Wong was great, and then Madison. Oh, my word. We need more Madison and Wong. So, yeah, that's why I end up giving it a 65. I mean, I don't know. Tell me what you think, but I just think if you objectively look at it, it had enough good elements to rank high on the list. But I get it. A lot of people put it at the bottom. All right, 27, Doctor Strange, the first Doctor Strange. Really liked the hero. Love Benedict as Doctor Strange. My only issue is his origin story was so much like Iron Man's, arrogant, rich, and then has a big fall and then comes back as a hero. That's okay. We can have a couple arrogant heroes. In fact, they were great sparring against each other in Infinity War. But I just felt like in this movie, at least, it was a little bit of a rehash of Iron Man's story. Villains, Crecilius, Dormammu, very cool. Just wasn't in the movie very much. So, yeah, I'll give it a 12, right down the middle. Story, I mean, it was an origin story. That's the bottom line. I enjoy origin stories if they're done really well, and I thought this one was done pretty well. And just overall, it took a while to really get to see the real Doctor Strange. So I give it a 15. Maybe that's harsh. Maybe it should be higher, but it's above average. It's a good story. Potpourri, though, I do give it some real good points here. The Ancient One annoyed me through most of the movie, which I think was the intent. But man, what a death scene. What a poignant death scene where she just is realizing, I can't see past this point. And she knew this was the point she died. Incredible death scene. Really well done. Really made me rethink her character throughout the whole movie. So, fantastic. All right, 67 for Doctor Strange. Number 26, What If? So What If is interesting. I liked all the heroes. At the end of the day, they were variants, so it's hard to really care about them, although some of them may make live appearances come Secret Wars. We'll see if there's going to be some incursions to bring some of them in. I liked Captain Carter a lot. I felt like her character, though, was very different from the Agent Carter TV show that we saw. And it obviously was very different from her representation in Multiverse of Madness. So she was a little too happy for me, I guess, a little too carefree. But anyway, we liked Captain Carter. Thor was, again, a dunce. He was really funny, but he was a dunce. Loved T'Challa. He was great. So at the end of the day, like I say, they're variants. It's hard to really care for them. And there were so many that died. I mean, Iron Man died, 16 times? But anyway, good heroes. Villains, really liked Infinity Ultron. As I mentioned, not so much in Age of Ultron, but I really liked him in this. And then Killmonger, fantastic. Always fantastic. Okay, story. Here's where I kind of dinged it a bit. I mean, I really wish they would have spent an episode or two explaining where on earth the Watcher was located. Where is this place? And especially when Ultron finds a way to break into it, I want to know even more. How is he able to look at all the multiverse from here? Tell me more. So hopefully season 2 we'll get some more of that. But I really felt that was a big miss. I would have handled at least an episode, maybe multiple, on learning more about the Watcher. Then you got Potpourri. Okay, so fantastic Doctor Strange episode. Maybe one of the best episodes of Marvel TV, period. Just amazing. And then I liked the zombies. Funny, scary, gory. It had everything. It was really good. All right, so it gets a nice solid 68 for What If. All right, and so we have number 25, Falcon and the Winter Soldier. That gets a nice solid 20 out of 25 for the heroes. Probably would have ranked it higher, except I felt like Sam learning how to use the shield and transitioning into Captain America was a little unearned. Like how did he learn how to use it so fast? They made it look like it happened in an hour and a half. I realized there was probably weeks of practice, but maybe that could have been fleshed out a little more. But Bucky was great. Absolutely loved Bucky. He was fantastic. I loved his redemption and trying to erase all the names from his book. That was great. Villains, boy, across the board here was a mixture. I liked U.S. Agent. He was fantastic. Really enjoyed him. Flag Smashers, I felt like I couldn't get behind their cause. in that they didn't really explain what they wanted. And even when Sam was trying to help, nope, they really wanted to just fight. It's hard to work with terrorists. That's the bottom line. But I respect that they felt like they were doing the right thing. They just really needed to reach out for help more often. And Batrick, he was okay. He's a Batrick, right? Good villain, but nothing special. All right, story. I kind of touched on it. I wish they would have explained a little bit more about how Sam learned how to use the shield, but it was still really good, and I'm glad he became Captain America. On the other hand, man, Walker with that shield with blood on it, go Disney, man. I cannot believe they were willing to do that. But I mean, after the George Floyd killing, this was a great way to get us thinking about it again and to personify it through U.S. Agent or Captain America at the time. But wow, that visual. Still can't believe Disney went there. Amazing. Potpourri, Isaiah Bradley was fantastic. That really brought in the whole Tuskegee affair and what happened in the past in real life and how his character kind of showed us that, the effect of that. And then, of course, Zemo. Oh, man, Dancing Zemo. Gotta love Dancing Zemo. Love Zemo throughout the whole thing, but the Dancing Zemo memes will forever live on. All right, so it gets a nice solid 70. All right, number 24. Is Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. I loved the heroes, 25 out of 25 in this case. I felt like they were perfectly represented. America Chavez, wonderful new introduction of her. Doctor Strange, Wong, both fantastic all the way through. Villains, Wanda. Love Wanda. Would have got a 25 if they would have done more to explain in the movie her transition from WandaVision to Multiverse of Madness. I mean, I understood it. She was studying the Darkhold for a whole year. And it was calling out to her, tricking her to think her kids were there. But they didn't really say any of that in the movie. She just kind of goes crazy. So they probably could have done more to do that transition. But nonetheless, she was fantastic. Story, I mean, I loved the variants, Defender Strange, Supreme Strange. They were both fantastic. I guess just in general, I felt like there wasn't enough of the Multiverse of Madness. I mean, they advertised it as being so much in the multiverse, and I felt like we didn't get that much. Obviously, the advertising, the trailers and commercials made you really think about it, but even the title, Multiverse of Madness, I don't feel like it delivered. But if you put that aside, it really was a good movie. It just wasn't necessarily what they advertised. A potpourri, I really enjoyed the Illuminati. They didn't last very long. I didn't mind that. I loved Wanda decimating them. But the commercials made you think they were going to play a bigger role. So it was a little disappointing, I guess, when we lost them so soon. But still, they were great. So 75 out of 100 for Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. Number 23, Iron Man 3. You know, some people rank this really low, and that's okay if you do. I really liked it. I thought Tony Stark, Iron Man, was portrayed perfectly in this. Him dealing with the anxiety of all that had happened in the attack on New York was amazing. I liked Rhodey in this. They were great buddies in this and worked together well. So 25 out of 25. Villains, Extremis, AIM, didn't do a lot for me. They weren't terrible, but they just weren't that great. Story, I liked the Mandarin twist. And I'm saying that as someone that loved the Mandarin in the comics and was bummed at first. But when I really realized where they went with it, and Trevor was so awesome, I was okay. It didn't bother me as much as it did others. And I really liked the anxiety storyline, which I touched on a little earlier with Tony. That was so well handled. A potpourri, man, the pigs in a barrel deal. That was an amazing stunt. I remember when seeing the commercial for the movie and going, there's no way this is going to work. He can't possibly save them all. And he does it. What an amazing scene. And then I loved all the suits of armor. That was a lot of fun. So gets a nice solid 75. So number 22, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. Heroes, 20 out of 25, only because I felt like Peter Quill was he was a lot softer than he was in the first one. I kind of liked his edge, and I realize he's in love now and all that, but I don't know. I liked the Star-Lord in Volume 1 a little better. Drax, I thought they made a little overly silly, still cracked up the whole way through, but a little overly silly. But overall, no, I liked the heroes. I just maybe would have given them higher if not for some of those things. Villains, okay. In the comics, I always thought Ego was goofy, and I admit Gunn did as good as he can do. Kurt Russell was fantastic as the character. It was cool with the celestial tie and all that. But I don't know. I don't really get into Ego the Living Planet. So, yeah, it was good. I think he was good as a one and done, honestly. But no fault to Kurt Russell. I love Kurt Russell. A story. I liked the ego being tied to Quill and how that was so important, not just to that movie, but I think, it tied back and explained Volume 1 and why he survived. And I think it's going to tie into Volume 3. I really had an issue, though, with the way they did the Sovereign and Rocket stealing the stuff from them. I thought that was silly, which then made them come and attack. And then it turns out the stuff Rocket stole is what allowed them to kill Ego. So that almost was like a plot device that was a bit of a plot contrivance. But the Sovereign is going to bring us Warlock, so yay for that. But I guess the story to me was just kind of rocky at times. Love the characters again, but just the story was Potpourri, though, man, got to give it to Yondu. For the whole movie, Yondu. But that death scene, got to be one of the top 2 death scenes in the whole MCU, right there with Iron Man. So, yeah, that really redeemed the movie to me in many regards, the father-son relationship they had. So, 77 for Guardians of the Galaxy. 21, Hawkeye. Man, from a hero standpoint, I could not have asked for anything more from those two. Who would have thought a show with the name Hawkeye as the title that I would be that interested in? But he was great. And Kate Bishop, oh my goodness, another one of the breakouts. Between she and Yelena, 2 fantastic, and America Chavez, 3 fantastic new female characters in Phase 4. Wow. Villains, okay, across the board here, different feelings. Yelena, perfect, fantastic. Kingpin, so glad to have him in the MCU. Not real happy with his representation. I think they'll do better, though, down the line. Echo, great, not my favorite, but still a really good job. And I'm looking forward to her series. So villains, 20 out of 25. Story, it just was kind of, it was a good story. It was a simple story. So there's that. And then I just did not like the way they made it a little silly with the LARPers at the end, that they have time to run in and switch their costumes and help with the battle. There were just some elements I thought they didn't need to do, but still, overall, really good story. It was Die Hard type story, which was fun with Hawkeye. And then Potpourri, I give it big points for the Christmas theme. You can watch it every Christmas. It was so much fun. They leaned heavy into the Christmas elements. So I give it a nice solid 80. Number 20, Captain America: The First Avenger. So the heroes, I don't know what more I could ask. It was an origin story, and yet I still felt like we knew the real Steve Rogers from the first moment he stepped in. He didn't have the conversion from being arrogant to being humbled to being, a superhero. He was just awesome from the first moment he appeared. So he was great. Bucky was great. The Howling Commandos, and of course, Peggy Carter. Villains, I would give it more points if they hadn't killed off the Red Skull, who, yes, I know he showed up again in Infinity War and Endgame, but boy, he was pretty neutered by then. He was such a great villain, as well as Zola in this movie. So I probably should just give it a 25 and be done with it, but I'm just kind of miffed that they killed him off. I hope he comes back. I hope he comes back in all his glory, all his evil glory, after the Soul Stone seemingly released him from the curse in Infinity War. We'll see. Story, really good story. Peggy Carter was fantastic. Erskine was fantastic. Chester was fantastic. The only reason I don't give it a 25 is ultimately it was in the past of the MCU timeline, and really felt like it was, okay, let's just get to Steve Rogers being in the future. Let's get through this, which is funny because the origin story was fantastic. But the very fact that the opening scene is in the present day almost makes you feel like they're kind of saying, okay, we're going to show you his past, but really this is all about so he can see Nick Fury and join the Avengers. So I don't know if I would have framed the movie the way they did with that opening scene. But anyway, it was a really good story. Potpourri, we get more Howard Stark. We learn more about his past, and it's amazing how many actors have played him. But I thought that was a really important part of the story that he be tied in to S.H.I.E.L.D. and everything. So very well done. All right, 81 for First Avenger. Number 19, for Spider-Man Far From Home. I'll admit, Spider-Man is my favorite hero, hands down. But even so, I thought Tom Holland did a great job, has done it in every one of his movies, has been great. So yeah, solid 25 for Spider-Man. Villains, only going to give it a 24 because they killed him off. I did the same thing with Red Skull, I know. And I'm actually giving him even more points here because I liked the tie back to Iron Man 1. Oh my gosh, William, that was amazing. So yeah, I really wish they hadn't killed Mysterio, but on the other hand, they did take all his drones. So even if he didn't die, he couldn't do his illusions anymore anyway. So that's fine. He was a one and done, but he was a fantastic villain. Story is a good story. If you think about it, though, do you really remember much about the summer break? I mean, it was kind of not important part of the story in the end of the day. Plus, I was kind of miffed that they made us think we were getting Molten Man, Sandman, maybe Cyclone. And no, they were all illusions from Mysterio. But still, good story. Good story. Now, potpourri, like I said, I don't like to normally have the end credit scenes bump up a movie, but man, is there any movie that had two amazing end credit scenes more so than these? Wow, you get Spider-Man finding out that his identity's been revealed to everyone and that Talos and Soren have been Fury and Hill throughout the whole movie. Goodness. Two back-to-back amazing end credit scenes. All right, gets an 81. So, number 18, Captain America Civil War. Who would have thought they could have this many heroes in a movie and give them all good moments, good elements? I was happy with how everyone was represented. It moved their story forward. Fantastic job. Villains. I love Zemo. I already told you I love Zemo earlier. He was just out for revenge in this movie. That was really all it was revenge. And the plot that he set up, the set of circumstances, it shouldn't have resulted in everything that it did. He really lucked out. I don't know that it was that good of a plan. So I don't give it more points, even though I absolutely love Zemo. So I hope he comes back again. I would enjoy anything that he's in. I just felt in this movie he was kind of, a lesser part of the plot. The story, tying Winter Soldier into the Stark's death, Tony's parents, wow. And the whole Iron Man Cap throwdown was amazing. Like I kind of implied, though, if you think about it, the entire plot could have been avoided if they just would have all talked to each other. But then also, how many times have we argued with a friend instead of just talking? So it makes sense. It's just, it really wasn't a very complex story at the end of the day. Boy, what a good story it was nonetheless. And potpourri, man, we got new Spider-Man appearance. We got a new Black Panther appearance. Man, to have a movie introduce two major characters so seamlessly was incredible. All right, so it gets an 82 for Civil War. Number 17, Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings. I have no complaints about the heroes. Shang-Chi was fantastic. Katie, Xialing, depending on whether you view her as a hero or not. Great origin story. A great addition to the MCU. Villains, I wouldn't change the thing about Wenwu. Of course, he was really evil at the beginning, but then once he got married and settled down, and then lost his wife, and then went for revenge, but also really was being tricked into thinking by the Dweller in Darkness into thinking that he could bring her back. Just an amazing villain, very well acted and handled, and great relationship with Shang-Chi, that whole father-son thing. Amazing. The story, I'd probably give it a 25, except the third act was a little CGI heavy. It didn't ruin it by any means, but it was a little much. Maybe didn't have to be that much for something that had been so grounded up to that point. It's kind of the Black Widow issue. It was so grounded up to one point, and then it was so CGI heavy. But I think it worked better in this one, at least. And then potpourri, I'm probably being unfair here, but I'm knocking it down pretty hard because I don't know that I like Shang-Chi getting a hold of the 10 rings. And maybe he won't. Maybe it's going to end up there. They don't work. I don't know. They're going to be taken from him. Kang's going to get him. I don't know. But he's going to be way OP if he keeps him. So this movie may go up in my ranking if we find out that he doesn't actually get to keep the 10 rings and use them. But I want martial arts. I don't want superpowered whatever's going on there versus his dad in the lower left there. So anyway, 83 for Shang-Chi. And again, it may go up if he doesn't end up using the rings. All right, 16, Infinity War. Again, how do you bring in all these heroes, and give them so much great time together, so many great lines, so many interplays between like Stark and Doctor Strange and Captain America there and Black Widow and Bucky and Black Panther. Just some fantastic scenes with characters together. I loved it. It wouldn't change anything. Very well done. Villains, I'd probably give it a solid 25, except, I mean, it was Thanos' movie, yes, but the Black Order was kind of thrown in a little more than I would have wanted. And I know they needed someone for the Avengers to pound on, and they did. They pounded on them throughout the whole movie. But yeah, Thanos will rank higher when he appears in Endgame. But a solid 20 for the villains. Story, the twist ending, who saw that coming, right? I mean, it's still so emotional to watch people like Peter getting blipped away. The only knock I give it is not so much poor Peter Quill. I don't blame him for what happened. I blame everybody else. Why did they not stop him? Why did they not even just talk him off the ledge and say, look, you can beat the snot out of Thanos in 5 seconds from now? Instead, they kind of just were making him feel like he wasn't being validated. Like, hey, quit it. Don't worry. Stop feeling that way. It's like, no. Tell him you can kick him where it counts. Just give us 5 seconds. So sometimes you need the support of others to get you out of an emotional state. And I felt like they let him down. That just really frustrated me. And it felt like a weak point for the movie, even though it all had to happen and there was only one way, and I get all that. But man, I just felt like they let him down. And then everybody blamed Star-Lord when I really don't think it was his fault. Anyway, great story. Potpourri, man, Loki's death, real death, very meaningful. And then I talked about team-ups earlier, but one of the ones I really love is Thor and Groot and Rocket. What a cool team-up that was throughout the whole movie. Yeah, it was fantastic. Just really, really great movie. 85 out of 100. All right, Moon Knight, number 15. You might say, how can anything top Infinity War, right? Well, I didn't say this, but you know what? Infinity War 2 loses some points for being a part 1. It was a part 1. That's the bottom line. That's unfair, perhaps, but it was an unfinished story. Versus Moon Knight, man, what a story from start to finish. I give the heroes a solid 25. I loved his origin. Loved Layla, and I did not see that coming. And she was a great origin. Fantastic. Villain, man, how do you beat Harrow, man? I'm sad he died, but on the other hand, it was fine. He was a one and done, but a fantastic one and done. His arc was over at the end, but he was so awesome throughout. A fantastic villain. Great job by Ethan Hawke. Story, dissociated disorder syndrome. They handled it, identity syndrome. They handled it really, really well. Very impressed that they would be willing to delve into that and let us all kind of understand, how it affects people. And Oscar Isaac acted it out perfectly. I'd give it a 25 if not for the bizarro kaiju battle at the end. I didn't need that. How many times are we going to bring up the third act? It doesn't need to be so crazy when it's down to earth up to that point. But still, it was fun to see the throwdown. Just keeps it from being a 25. Potpourri, it's interesting. I think the concern I had when this finished was not so much coming back from the dead in this series by Moon Knight, or in this TV show by Moon Knight, but it opened the door for, okay, does death have meaning? I mean, is the afterlife a revolving door that you can kind of come in and come out? Because I'm a little worried Mighty Thor might come back after Love and Thunder. Not because I don't want her to come back, but because, yet again, it's like you die, and then you decide, I don't want to stay in the afterlife. So I'm hoping that this won't be happening often, but still, it worked in Moon Knight, but it really raised some bigger concerns of what this means for future things. So Moon Knight, though, gets a nice solid 85. Number 14, Werewolf by Night. Oh my goodness, what a great special presentation. Loved Jack. Loved Ted. They were fantastic. 25 out of 25. Can't wait to see both of them again. Villains, the hunters were pretty much fodder, which is fine. But Verussa, wow, she was great. She was really great. So if she wasn't there, this would be a lot lower, but she raises it up a lot because just fantastic. The story, really good. I love the Ted and Jack relationship was awesome. Maybe my only concern is I just didn't understand when it was taking place in the timeline, or even maybe where. Is it even in 616? I mean, that's okay. It doesn't need to tell us. And in fact, just letting it be on its own was great, but it did still leave me at the end going, okay, so where does this fit? But that's okay. It's going to make me want to see the next appearance all the more, right? They better explain it next time we see him. But this was great. And then potpourri, boy, talk about leaning into horror. Wow. I mean, Multiverse of Madness had horror elements. This just went full throttle. And it makes me realize they're going to be able to pull off R-rated content if they could do this. I mean, I think this gives me hope for Blade. It gives me hope for Daredevil, if they make that more mature, etc. They can do it. Marvel proved they can do it. So this was great. Solid 88 for Werewolf by Night. All right, number 13, Guardians of the Galaxy Holiday Special. Man, Mantis and Drax were fantastic. We even learned more about both of them, especially about Mantis. So high marks, 25 for the heroes. Villains, you might say, is there really a villain in this? I'm going to say yeah. I mean, Yondu, which great to see him again, he really wrecked Christmas for everybody. And of course, we learn at the end there's a little more to the story. But really, what Yondu did triggers the entire special presentation to then happen years later. You know, it was the reason for everybody thinking, hey, we need to give poor Peter a good Christmas. So yeah, I loved Yondu coming back and just being Yondu. It was terrific. Story, I wouldn't have changed a thing. Love the Christmas elements. Love Kevin Bacon. And again, Mantis and Drax were fantastic. Everybody was fantastic. And then potpourri, it gets a ton of points for the reveal of Star-Lord and Mantis being brother and sister. Kind of made everything else not matter anymore, that this was the real meaning. This was the whole point of the special. Wow. And then Cosmo was a fantastic new addition. We'll see more of Cosmo in Guardians Volume 3, I'm sure. All right, so it gets an 89. And number 12, Spider-Man Homecoming. Again, I love Spider-Man, so he's going to always rank high unless they do a poor job with him, but I thought this was fantastic. So 25 out of 25. Liked his relationship with Stark. That was great. Villains, you know, the Vulture's always been kind of lame in the comics, and boy, did they make him scary in this movie. Good job. And Michael Keaton, fantastic performance. Story, okay, this is interesting. I would give it a full 25, other than the fact that I felt like the Stark tech might actually have taken away from the story, but at the same time, they still made you feel in a couple points, oh my goodness, he's going to die. I mean, when he had to put on his old costume again, and he's fighting Vulture in that rinky-dink crazy costume, I mean, that was scary. And then when he's got the Stark tech and he's on top of the Washington Monument, I was really scared for him. So kudos to them to make it still feel real and have meaning, even though he's got all the tech. But it may have been the wrong direction to have him get so much tech from Stark. We'll see what he's like in Spider-Man 4 without the tech. So, and potpourri, wow, what a turn of events there with the Vulture. That surprised me. I know Spider-Man comics real well because I read them all. Did not see that coming. Fantastic. So it gets a 90 out of 100 for Homecoming. Number 11, Guardians of the Galaxy. This time they get a solid 25. Remember last time I gave them a 20 because I felt like a couple things were a little off to me. Nothing was off here. They were fantastic, beginning to end, all of them. Amazing. Villains is probably where it suffers. You know, Ronan was not super. I mean, he wasn't terrible, but he just wasn't that memorable. Nebula just drove me crazy, which is funny since I love her now. But yeah, they didn't really give her much of a story. She just was angry all the time. And then Thanos just didn't appear much, right? It was great to see him, and he was kind of looming over the whole movie in a way. But no, I think the villains weren't terrible by any means, but just not the best part of the story. But the story itself, oh my goodness. I mean, all of it was amazing. I could talk for 20 minutes about why I liked the movie. But just even this final scene was so powerful, seeing them all work together. And of course, it gets explained again when we learn his celestial origins in Volume 2. But just an amazing movie. Great story. And then potpourri, what amazing characters. We already had met Collector, but he really was fleshed out and hilarious in this movie. And then Yondu. Man, Yondu is the bomb. The guy was awesome in this movie, and it's such a bummer he had to die in Volume 2, but loved him here in the first movie. All right, so it gets a nice solid 90. That's for Guardians of the Galaxy. Number 10, Iron Man. OG movie, right? This time, I love Iron Man through and through. It would change nothing about his appearance, nothing about his personality. Yes, he was arrogant and then fell and then rose again, but you still loved him all the way through. You didn't feel like, okay, we got to get through the arrogant part, then we go to the humble part, and then we go to the superhero part. No, it was so well done, so well written. Loved this movie. Love that hero. Villains, all right, probably suffered a little here. Stain, another kind of corporate greed dude. Not terrible, not great. And finally puts on the Ironmonger costume at the end, or outfit at the end. Raza was really scary. He was a good villain. He was absolutely terrifying at the beginning of the movie. But still, overall, on the grand scheme of all the villains out there, just kind of, a little above average, but not super. The story, though, just amazing. Just amazing. Best origin story out there. Probably best character, Iron Man. So RDJ killed it. And potpourri, I said earlier, I don't really like the end credit scenes to save a movie. It didn't save the movie in this case. It was already a great movie. And if you think about the impact of Nick Fury coming out and saying you're part of a bigger universe and showing the Avengers initiative, oh my goodness, it launched the MCU. It launched the MCU. So yeah, Iron Man gets a solid 90. You're going to notice, by the way, some of these scores, they might have added up the same. So then I had to just pick, from a gut feel, which I liked better. Because it makes sense. Some of these land with the same overall numbers. All right, number 9, Wakanda Forever. The heroes were fantastic. Shuri was great. Koye, Nakia, all of them. And Ironheart, great introduction of a new character. No complaints on any of them. Fantastic. Villain, Namor. Wow, amazing. This is another one of those villains who in the comics I kind of hated. In fact, I was glad whenever he showed up as a villain, and I hope the heroes just pounded on him because I just did not like Namor. But Namor, yeah, he was fantastic. Great villain. Story, okay. So I would give it a 25 because it handled T'Challa's death / Chadwick Boseman's real-life tragic death very, very well. And again, Namor and all the heroes were fantastic. I did kind of wonder, though, did they need to throw in Ironheart? Did they need to throw in Val and Everett Ross? They were all great, don't get me wrong, but it almost took away from the real point of the story, which was dealing with Black Panther's death, Chadwick Boseman's death, and how to move on, and Shuri becoming the new Black Panther. So, I don't know. Maybe I'm being too hard on that, but I just feel like it took a little bit away by having some world building. Anyway. But potpourri, I loved having T'Challa Jr. That was fantastic. I just don't know what their next plan is. I mean, please don't tell me Kang's going to hit him with a time gun and age him up 10 years or something silly. So we'll see. I just don't know where this is going to go, but I was so glad that we had Black Panther T'Challa has a legacy with T'Challa Jr. All right. Nice solid 93 for Wakanda Forever. Number 8, Avengers. Oh, man. Just an insanely good movie. How do you take 6 heroes who you liked all of them separately, put them together, and still give them all equal time, great lines, great companionship, great fight scenes, just spectacular. Very, very well done movie. Fantastic heroes. Villains. Okay. I loved Loki in this, even though I did not like him in Thor. He was just flat out evil. It was great. I knock it down only 1 point because the Chitauri were kind of throwaway villains, but at the same time, they were great. I mean, you needed them for the Battle on New York to have so much stuff going on. But yeah, if it was just Loki, it probably would get a 25. Chitauri, knock it down just a teens. But anyway, story, it's funny. It is an amazing story. I could watch it over and over again and never tire of it. But it's true that it's not the most complex story in the world. And that's okay. It didn't need to be. I just don't give it a solid 25 because I think there are better stories in other movies and TV shows. But I got no complaints. Don't get me wrong. I got no complaints. It just wasn't super complex. Didn't make you leave the movie thinking, well, I got to really unpack this movie. You just left the movie going, that was a really good movie. Speaking of, here were some of the reasons, right? Under potpourri, the whole Hulk versus Thor battle was fantastic. The Thor versus Iron Man battle was amazing. And then throw Captain America in there too. It was more than just let's have a team meet up and beat up on Loki and the Chitauri. It was let's have them beat up on each other. Let's have this isn't going to be an easy road for this team coming together. That was so well done. So yeah, 94 for Avengers. Number 7, Spider-Man No Way Home. Not only have I said I love Spider-Man, but hey, throw in three total Spider-Man. Oh yeah, give me Toby, give me Andrew, give me Tom. Wow. I mean, I know it's fan service. I get that. And so some people rank this lower because of that. I look at it and I say, no, it's 20 years of Spider-Man history all coming together. Wow, I never thought they could pull that off. Amazing. Then you throw in the 5 villains. 5 villains we never thought we'd ever see again. Now they're all in this movie together. Unbelievable. Yes, it's fan service, but what good fan service. I've never seen fan service done this well. Incredible. Story. Okay, I would give it a solid 25 just because of everything I've said, the villains and the heroes. That alone should make it a 25. It did have some plot contrivances in it. I mean, not plot holes per se, although maybe kind of close to it. But, you know, like Peter messes up the spell, and then that causes trouble, and then they have to go try to cure them all. And I mean, there was a lot of things that had to work to make this happen. I don't care, though. At the end of the day, I don't care. I'm just giving it a little less because I have to admit the story wasn't perfect by any means. But still, really good story. And then potpourri, man, that death of Aunt May, did not see that coming. Her saying the with great power comes great responsibility line was incredible. A very, very deep, meaningful scene. Obviously, it made me cry. That was painful. And then, of course, Andrew saving MJ. Andrew's Spider-Man saving MJ. That was a big thing because that completed his arc. So there were some really good moments that weren't just fan service. I mean, these were just good moments. So I'm going to give it a nice solid 95. All right, number 6, Avengers Endgame. Loved having all the heroes. And while the time heist gave us certain heroes, got a lot of screen time, yes. But even when they all came out of the portals, we got so much great moments with everybody. Everybody got a little moment to shine. It was so incredible. Very, very well done. One of those things it felt like we'll never see again. And yet, I think with Secret Wars, we will. In fact, supposedly it's going to even top of Endgame. We'll see if they can pull that off because this was pretty incredible. Villains, okay, now I do give Thanos a solid 25. He was the main villain. I mean, yes, the time heist, he wasn't involved. It wasn't until the end, but man, he was in his full glory in this movie. Just spectacular. Story, I really liked the time heist. I thought it was a great idea. I never would have seen that coming. I would have given it a 25, except that I don't feel like they explain the time travel rules really well. I mean, still, the writers and directors disagree on whether Steve Rogers went back in time in the main timeline or whether he created a branch. So I think it let us down in that regard, but otherwise, fantastic story through and through. And then potpourri, oh man, some of the moments they gave us, you know, Tony meeting his dad, Steve picking up the hammer, oh man, just smacking Thanos with the lightning bolt. Amazing moments, amazing moments. So it gets a nice solid 95 for Avengers Endgame. So you almost say, how can anything top that movie? Well, Loki was spectacular. It was really spectacular. Funny to put Loki in the hero category, but I would call him the hero of this. His redemption arc was amazing. So yeah, perfect, just perfect from a hero standpoint. From a villain standpoint, I love He Who Remains. Maybe the only reason he doesn't get a solid 25 is, well, A, he died, and B, we didn't meet him till the end. But what a meeting it was. I remember watching that final episode thinking, they're not going to give us Kang. They're not going to give us Kang. Oh my gosh, they gave us Kang. You know, it was like just so awesome. So even though he was only in it for a short time, I am still going to give him a really high ranking. I just, in fairness, can't give it a solid 25. But from a story standpoint, yes, I can give that a solid 25. The TVA, Mobius, Sylvie, so much going on, so deep, and of course it kicked off the entire multiverse saga. So wow, what a story! So very well written, Can't wait for season 2. And potpourri, how about the variants? Bring on the variants. Alligator Loki, man. Yeah, it did so much. Loki did so much. So yeah, how do you put anything above Endgame? Well, I really think this story was even better in some regards. Just my opinion. I'd love to hear what you think on this. But yeah, I give it a 98 out of 100. Really, really good. All right. Number 4. I know I'm going to get grief on this. I got grief before for putting WandaVision so high, but hear me out. Hear me out, and then tell me how wrong I am. That's fine. So from a hero standpoint, I thought Wanda was amazing. I thought Vision was amazing. Even the kids were awesome. I mean, keep in mind, WandaVision got 23 Emmy nominations. 23, and it only won a few, but to get that many nominations, it's got to be good, right? It's got to be, it did something right. So I look at the heroes and I say, yeah, solid 25. Another thing it did right, the villain. Oh my goodness, was Agatha amazing. Agatha all along, right? I mean, her song was like #1 on the charts for a couple weeks. Some crazy little song they just threw together for the episode, and it just went nuts. There was so many aspects of this that just stood out and stayed with us long after the episodes were done. So yeah, the story, I loved the TV theme through several of the episodes. I've heard many people say they wished it was in every episode. I don't disagree. I didn't find episode 4 to be a downer. Some people said they loved 1 through 3 and then they didn't like episode 4 back in the real world. I thought it was great. It was time to show us what is going on and to learn about S.W.O.R.D. and to learn about how they were learning what's going on in the Hex. I thought it was great. And obviously I loved the whole death scene with Vision. What is grief if not love persevering? That quote's got to be one of the best of all of Phase 4. So, and honestly, I didn't mind the CGI battle at the end. We talked about the how those things go nuts at the end. It made sense because she put the hexes around, or the runes around the hex, and that's how she defeated Agatha. So it kind of needed to be this big battle in the sky. So anyway, for me, and by the way, I loved episode 8 because I'm a timeline wonk, right? I love timelines, and I loved hearing all that past and tying it all together. So anyway, love WandaVision. And then potpourri, wow, look at all these characters we got. We got the origin of Monica Rambeau. I think she's going to be Spectrum, but could be Photon. I don't know at this point. We got Jimmy back again. We got Darcy back. And yeah, we got Fietrode. We got Ralph Bonard. But still, it was great to have him in the series. So I give WandaVision 100. I just think I wouldn't have changed anything. But I know I'm going to get grief for that. Having had a lot of loss in my life, I mentioned earlier, my wife, my mom, and my dad also passed. So I just felt for Wanda, and I really got into the grief and dealing with grief from this. But I know for a lot of people, it's going to be a lot lower on your list, and that's fine. Number 3, Black Panther. Black Panther was fantastic. Obviously, Chadwick Boseman as the Black Panther himself, but Nakia, Shuri, everyone loved him beginning to end. Villains, Killmonger was fantastic. And it's weird that there would be another villain who I wouldn't lower the score because sometimes you have one great villain and another I thought Andy Serkis was fantastic. It was good that it shifted away from him to Killmonger for the second half, but that's what made Killmonger all the better, is he was kind of hiding in the background, letting Claw kind of be the front man, and then boom, when he kills Claw, and then it's all Killmonger. Fantastic villain. Story, I loved the whole idea of, do we go and help others with our resources or not? I mean, Killmonger wasn't wrong. His methods might have been wrong, but he wasn't wrong. And that's what makes a great villain, and that's what makes a great story. So fantastic story. And then potpourri, what a death. What a death scene. Man, it was just incredible. It was incredible. I wish he didn't have to die, but I think it wouldn't have been the same if he hadn't. So yeah, I give Black Panther a solid 100 as well. All right, number 2, Captain America: The Winter Soldier. What a movie. This is another one where I thought every hero was perfectly represented in it. Captain America, Black Widow, Falcon, and Nick Fury in particular. There were other heroes as well, but those 4 really stand out. Very, very well done. Villains. I loved Hydra going all evil. Pierce was fantastic. Seeing Zola again, Computer Zola, was fantastic. Just this whole idea of Hydra hiding in S.H.I.E.L.D., amazing. And which, obviously, that's one of the main reasons I love the story. I love espionage, spy espionage stuff. Hail Hydra. Hail Hydra. Suddenly, all these folks that we had no idea they were Hydra, longtime characters, turn out to be evil. Kind of makes you think Secret Invasion. If they can pull this off again with Secret Invasion, the lightning will have struck twice then. But they did it so well in this movie. And then potpourri, some of the scenes they gave us. I could watch Nick Fury getting beaten up in his car over and over again. That was so well done. And of course, the elevator scene. Anybody want to get off now? Just amazing, amazing fight scene. It's so well done. All the movie, front to back, perfect in my mind. I could watch it over and over again. Perfect 100. And the number one, I'm going to redeem Thor. Because yes, I think Ragnarok is the best of all the Marvel movies. From a hero standpoint, every one of them perfectly represented. Loved the four of them together. Hulk, Thor, Valkyrie, and Loki. Fantastic. Villains, Hela was amazing. And Surtur was amazing. Both of them. Couldn't have asked for anything better. I hate the fact they both died or seemed to die. Some people don't agree they're dead. I'm pretty sure they're dead, in my opinion. But nonetheless, they were amazing. The story, the battle world, mini battle world scene with on Sakaar with Thor versus Hulk was amazing. Executioner, what a great character. Oh my goodness, what a noble death. Just fantastic. And then potpourri, Odin. Man, I mentioned before I loved Anthony Hopkins as Odin. He made me cry again. I'm like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I'm actually sad for Odin, but I am. That was so sad. And then Grandmaster, fantastic character. He can't have died. Please tell me he didn't die at the end. We need him back again. So yeah, my opinion, perfect 100. I could watch this movie over and over again. When Odin is telling Thor, what are you, the god of hammers? And he realizes, oh my gosh, I have it within me, and comes flying in with the lightning bolts. Just amazing. I mean, I could go on and on. What a fantastic movie. So there you go. That's my ranking. Tell me what you think. And I will say, I ran the numbers, and when I average everything together, Phase 3 got an 80 overall, 80 score. Phase 4 got a 75. Phase 2 got about a 71, and Phase 1 got a 70, which really landed the way I thought. I think Phase 3 is the best, then Phase 4, then Phase 2, then Phase 1. But it's interesting that worked out once I did this separately and then added it all together, and sure enough, that's how it ended for me. So let me know that as well. How does it rank for you from a phase standpoint? Which was your favorite phase? And then, next and least favorite phase. So, all right, leave all that in the comments. And in the meantime, we await for the start of Phase 5 with Quantumania right around the corner. So tell me what you liked best. You don't have to list everything if you don't want to, or you can. Tell me your top 5, your top 10, your least favorite, whatever you'd like. Also, like this video, subscribe if you haven't already. You can check out more content, and we can all continue to enjoy the ever-growing, ever-expanding, ever-evolving Marvel Cinematic Universe.